Even though studios are talking more about how they make their games, they still don't really talk about how they write them. It's not surprising because despite how much better they've gotten at telling them, games don't need stories to be entertaining. However, during the development of Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, game studio Ninja Theory kept a video diary covering the game's creation. This featured all aspects of the game's design, but paid special attention to its storytelling. This is a great educational resource for many aspects of game development, but today, I want to go through Hellblade's narrative design process and talk about how it went from this to this. I'm going to avoid spoilers as much as possible, but know that Hellblade is a game about Senua, a picked warrior on a quest to retrieve the soul of her lover from the Norse underworld of Hell. Her story involves making sense of her past, dealing with loss, and finding her own truth. Hellblade uses its setting in Norse mythology and the reality-warping symptoms of Senua's psychosis to explore these themes. It was only after consulting historians, mythologists, psychiatric professionals, and people living with psychosis did creative director Tamim Antoniades start to organize these ideas. With new understanding, Tamim takes Hellblade's core concepts and organizes them into characters, focusing on Senua. He starts by writing possible moments of her past on post-its and looking for patterns between them. These events are inspired by real and realistic experiences to make Senua feel as authentic as possible. Then, he organizes these notes into 4 sections, each being its own small story for the child, girl, teen, and adult chapters of Senua's life. From there, Tamim eliminates as many notes as he can without breaking the narrative. This process creates an extremely focused character story where everything that happens is directly connected to Senua. For example, she's been taught that her psychosis is a curse, and when Vikings raid her village, she blames herself for the attack.
Senua, look at me.
Do you hear them? They're calling for me.
We've lost so many. And I've lost my father. I can't lose you.
You said it. I have blood on my hands.
Hellblade trades the breadth of a sprawling narrative to focus on Senua, making her story an intimate, personal experience. Taking the remaining story beats, Tamim places them on a map of the game world. Hellblade was imagined as a non-linear game where players could experience events in different orders, and this process helps them visualize where players might interact with certain plot points. However, the final version of the game is far more linear. There are only 2 sections where you choose how to move forward: the Bridge to Hell and the Trials of Odin. While you lose control over the story, this greatly benefits its pacing. A game is reliant on the player to drive the story forward, but whether it's because they're distracted or they struggle with certain sections, players move through the story at different speeds. This makes it almost impossible to control the story's momentum. By restricting the narrative, Ninja Theory has more control over the story and how you interact with it, while still making you an active part of its telling. Part of Tamim's design philosophy is that gameplay and storytelling aren't separate from each other. The story isn't restricted to cutscenes, it's happening all around the player, even during puzzles or combat. Hellblade achieves this by linking both the gameplay and game world to Senua's psychosis. The game world is an extension of Senua, syncing with her breathing when it's not tearing and melting. Her ability to find patterns in the environment opens doors instead of keys. Even the combat is connected, and that includes Senua's sword time ability and why she's fighting Phantom Vikings. All these elements would have been fine on their own, but by combining them and telling the story through gameplay, Hellblade becomes more than each of its parts. When commenting on his process, Tamim claims he couldn't have come up with the story if he just sat down and tried to write it. We see this through the post-its and pictures he uses while crafting the narrative, and the way Hellblade shares information with the player. For example, the events of Senua's past are visualized through psychotic hallucinations and flashbacks. Thanks to some smart camera work, you witness these events in full view of Senua's raw, emotional reactions as she relives these memories. It's easier to drive emotion from events shown than from events told. Tamim knows this, and when Hellblade does tell its story, it uses its audio to shape things that can't be seen.
Her world changed that day when the Northmen took him from her. Senua knows that there is no going back to how things were. That there is nothing to go back to at all. Stay still, stay quiet, hide, don't tell her.
Their gods can see into your mind. They will use this power to destroy you.
They won't stop me. I can still feel it.
Whatever's left of him, they will never let him go.
I'm not gonna let him rot here.
You're the one rotting here.
Leave me alone.
You will die here.
No.
And all your suffering will have been for nothing.
By using binaural microphones, the voices Senua was constantly subjected to gain a position in 3D space, as well as motion and weight. 1 second they're on your shoulder, whispering into your ear, the next they're bearing down on Senua, chastising her for your mistakes.
Go through it.
It's dangerous.
Follow it.
What's behind the gate?
Where will it take you?
It's not safe.
They were once brothers, sisters, and loved ones. And look at what you have done to them. All because you were a coward, because you ran from your curse instead of facing it.
This use of audio brings these voices out of Senua's head and into the world around you. Hallucinations and voices are difficult to describe on paper. Even the most beautiful prose in the world would struggle to explain them. By using audio and visuals, Hellblade doesn't have to explain these symptoms and lets you experience them for yourself.
Oh, she heard us.
Video games don't need stories to be entertaining, but that hasn't stopped them from telling them. With still so much to learn, it's unfortunate that video game storytelling isn't a more common topic when discussing their development. Resources like Ninja Theory's video diaries are crucial to creating informed discussion around video game narrative design and helping the medium grow. The storytelling of Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice makes it extremely easy to get emotionally invested and empathize with Senua. There's a lot you can learn just from playing through it, but by looking at the story from another perspective, you can gain a new appreciation for it, and hopefully learn a bit more on transforming your own pile of post-its into an incredibly sound story. So for this video, I chose to focus on the narrative aspects mentioned in Ninja Theory's dev diaries, but they're full of incredible information, so I'm linking them here and in the description if you want to check them out. Obviously, I really enjoyed Hellblade, and I find that I prefer its more linear story structure. But I know that's not for everyone, and I want to cover different types of stories on the channel, so I want to hear from you. What kind of stories do you like in video games? Let me know in the comments. I'm interested to hear what you think, and together we can learn more. So thank you so much for watching.